Indeed, a very beautiful evening. Thanks for joining us on Engendered this evening. I am Victoria Agbi.
I am Pamela Ajero. Welcome to the program this evening. Like you all know, is the program Engendered, a program where we'll bring you every information, every discuss, every details relating to the female gender. And now we'll go for a short break. When we come back, we'll bring our topic and also our guest to stay with us.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, you're right on time. Like Pamela said before we went on that break, Engendered is a program where we discuss everything about the female gender. Well, I can smell some sort of excitement in the house. Pamela, it seemed different from the normal and usual. How are you?
I'm fine.
Yeah.
Why are you putting on red?
It's Christmas already. So when I went to the field today.
Okay.
I got to court and someone like, oh, you look red. And it means one thing, Christmas is here.
Yeah, I can smell it already. By tomorrow, we'll be entering December. Exactly. And from December 1, Pamela Ajero starts celebrating her Christmas because I can't wait to 25th. If I wait to 25th, she'll just come and pass me by. So I just try as much as possible to celebrate from December 1st till the last day of December.
Indeed. You're right. Indeed, you're right. All right. Aside from Christmas being on the air, there's one thing that's been in the lips of so many people, so many civil society groups, the government, and the individuals too, and that is, of course, the 16 days activism against against gender-based violence. And today we are lucky to be in the house with, of course, we're going to be having an exciting show today because we have two brilliant people in the house. But first we're going to begin with one. And well, should I introduce her yet? Before I introduce her, let me read this out. Now, the 16 Days of Activism Against Gender-Based Violence is an international campaign that takes place from November 25th, the International Day for Elimination of Violence Against Women, to December 10th, Human Rights Day. During these 16 days, individuals and organizations around the world come together to raise awareness about gender-based violence and advocate for its elimination. Now, the campaign aims to highlight the various forms of violence that disproportionately affect women and girls, such as domestic violence, sexual assault, and harmful practices like child marriage, female genital mutilation. It also seeks to promote gender equality, challenge harmful gender norms, and support survivors of gender-based violence. Well, today we'll be doing this discussion, of course, on the 16 days activism against gender-based violence with no other person than Iya Bawa Pyiki. She is an ex-choir head of compliance, cooperation, and sustainability gender mobile initiative. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. We don't have our bell, so I can ring for you.
Oh yeah, let's try this.
Welcome to the show.
Indeed. Thank you so much for having me again.
How are you doing?
I'm great.
With the 16 days activism.
Oh, it has been
as a spirit.
It has been amazing. There has been a lot of energy all around, very positive energy. The advocacy campaigns, the policy processes, and so on has been going on. People are ready. You know, the beautiful thing about 16 days of activism is that it's a time where you see a great form of collaboration. So you have people from the government, you have civil society groups, you have private sector, you have, you know, individuals. Everybody is always ready, because one thing I know for sure is that violence is actually a pervasive situation, but that doesn't mean that it is inevitable. It does not mean that violence against women and children cannot stop. So it just means that there are appropriate approaches and systematic changes that need to occur for this violence to stop. So what we're doing here, and other forms of programs and other forms of advocacy, and you know, everything that surrounds the 16 days of activism against violence, is exactly why we have to keep on. Like I said, the energy is on. These 16 days of activism, it happens every year, just as you read. So, but every year you see that the energy is always heightened. People want to do more because the violence hasn't stopped, right? But then people want to do more, to see that this violence, reduces to the most minimal level, and that people are educated enough, because it starts from, for us in Nigeria, there's a cultural situation, or like, let me say, cultural and traditional norms that are surrounding this whole issue of, what leads to violence against women and also girls. So when you keep educating the public, when you go into communities and you have conversations with community leaders, when government put out programs that ensure that there's a certain level of protection for women and girls, this is it. This is what we're talking about, and that is why we have to keep discussing the issue.
Okay, before we go deep, how effective will you say this 16 days activism campaign has been in raising awareness about gender-based gender-based violence? How would you rate it? Is it reducing?
Yes, absolutely. I would say it's reducing. We all know that it's a global movement, so it's not just happening in Nigeria. It's happening everywhere. And one thing I know is that, like I said, this is one thing about the 16 days of activism, is that it brings a lot of people together. There's a large level of collaboration. So for me, I would say violence have really reduced, because through the 16 days of activism, every year there are different topics. For this year's Unite, invest in girls and women. And then recently, let me just say this, recently I went for a lunch. It was a research on the nexus between women economic empowerment and gender-based violence. And the beautiful thing, it was in West Africa. So the research was based on 3 countries, Ghana, Nigeria, and Senegal. And you could see that there was a high, because it's data. They give us the data and everything. It's a research. So you could see that, there used to be a very high rise of violence. I can tell you for a fact that during COVID-19, violence increased.
Yes.
Violence increased. But now from that research, you see that there's a minimal occurrence of violence, and also the fact that there's a need for economic empowerment. And a lot of times we forget that it's not all about the issue of, you give the woman you give her a mouth, she goes 10 miles. People have a problem with, how can a woman walk? People have that mindset, and I saw that mindset play out. But the most important thing, what I'm trying to drive at, is the fact that we have to invest. Invest in ourselves as women. We're all women here. So there's a certain level of investment you have to have in yourself for you to know that, okay, because a lot of people that go through violence, they can't leave, right? And so this 16 days of activism is not only about talking about the issues. We have seen people finding solutions to those issues, and that is investing in women, right? People come out with different initiatives and different approaches. How do you help these women? Some of these women are still in these violent marriages or in this violent environment because they don't have the means to help themselves. Some of them are not educated enough. Some of them, there's so much going on. And then because of 16 days of activism, policies and programs are designed. And then you see that these programs help in investing in the lives of these women and girls. So yes, 16 days of activism has really played a very big role globally in channeling the movement against violence, because violence needs to stop.
Okay,
yes.
One would say, of course, we're not where we need to be, but of course we are not where we used to be.
Yes.
But then I do like to ask, because I listened to all you said, and you kept hammering on women, girls. So is it just about the women alone?
Yeah, the thing you have to understand that in statistically proven data, 88% of violence is usually against women. So I am not saying that men don't go through violence and all that. No, that's not true. Men go through violence, boys go through violence, and we tell them, please speak up. Don't think because you're a man you should not speak up. Please speak up. But the truth is that the majority of people that go through violence are women. 88% is not a joke. Statistically, from the age of 0 to 5, a girl has already gone through violence, whether it was physical abuse, whether it was sexual abuse, from 0 to 5 in Nigeria, proving data. So you can see that you can't compare. You cannot compare. And because women are the first, they're vulnerable, first of all. And because usually, there are a lot of cultural and traditional norms that have already put them in a state where they can't speak up. They already feel like they're second-class citizens. So that is why when it comes to issues of violence, women are the ones that, the concentration and attention is more women. Because there's already so much that is against them. Yes. So that is why the 16 days of activism is mostly channeled on women and girls globally, because it's a global issue. And globally, this is the situation that women find themselves. Even in the third world countries, there's still, there's still violence. Because violence is it's an entrenchment of a lot of things. Whether it's physical, and in physical, you can dissect it. Whether it's sexual, and in the sexual, you can dissect it. So it is everywhere. And it's the same for women everywhere. And women are the first, these perpetrators, they always target women more. So that's the reason.
Okay, what should we be doing different in this year 16 days activism against violence? What should be people's take home?
So in not to shift from the line of this year's theme, which is to invest in women and girls. So let me take the women's side first. For women, there's a need for every state in Nigeria. I'm a lawyer. So I understand that there is a certain, when you choose the right legal engineering, you get the best results. So if states in Nigeria can all actually adopt the VAP law and implement it.
VAP law again.
Yes. And they implement it, because it's not just about, collecting these laws, adopting it, ratifying it. Implementation is a big issue for us in this country. So if they actually implement these laws, then I feel like that will be a major win for us looking at this year's theme. Because a lot of times you see that perpetrators are reported, but they're never really convicted, right? You see that people bring out, people speak up. Women speak up, and they say, oh, listen, this is what happened to me. And even listening is a problem, but not, like I said, staying in line with this year's theme. I feel like for women, the first thing is for there to be a right legal engineering, and that is adopting the VAP Act across all the 36 states of the country. And then another thing is that we need to invest more in women. We need to help women. It's way beyond giving a woman, politicians will come in here and they will give you sack of gari and whatever. That does not change a woman's life. We need powerful action-based approaches, like powerful economic-based approaches that will help these women stand on their 2 feet. Because one of the big problems, like I said, is actually economic empowerment. If we can economically empower some of these women, I feel like drastically the issues we're talking about here, it will be reduced.
Like even in even in the sense of speaking up, because oftentimes you said you're a lawyer, and I've heard lawyers who would say, well, this woman came to report about violence, however, bringing the woman into the case or something, and the woman later said, we don't want it again, he's not beating me, I'm fine, there's no violence or whatsoever. So I want to ask, how do you intend to make women? What moves are going to be put in place to ensure that women speak up more often? Because over this year, we've had so many deaths as to this same violence, gender-based violence. Like I said, we are not where we are.
Yeah, and just to add to what she has said, and there's also some situations whereby people get to report their cases and it takes for too long. Last time we were on this show, it was for a very long time I've been on this show, it was only once we recorded a case that the victim won. Like most of the cases you hear that they gave the case but nothing came out of it, before you know they just give up. So what exactly should be done?
That's exactly what I said. So we're saying the same thing, that there's a situation with actually convicting these perpetrators. And the truth about it is that once you let one perpetrator goes, you've let another 10 go scot-free, and you have increased the violence. Because this perpetrator will see that, I did this thing and nothing happened to me. He'll go and tell his friend, look, you can do this thing and also go scot-free. So these are the issues. That is why I'm saying that there is a need to have proper mechanisms where there are checks and balances, where our justice system are serious, about stopping any form of violence against women and girls. So, and there needs to be fast track justice against violence against women and girls. I would say that everything is dependent on the government and also dependent on the justice system. So there has to be, because a lot of times it's not only about what works on paper. It also has to do with how you deploy resources into what works in paper. Everything is it's a how do you say it? It's in steps. There are different offices. You have to ensure that, because it's a flow. Everything flows from up to down, right? So if you're saying, oh, how do we, make sure that there's a fast track judicial system, in the sense that issues of violence are quickly recognized, and then there's swift action. You also have to think about those state actors and non-state actors that are involved. So that means that the police have to take these issues very seriously. That means that child protective services in Nigeria have to start working effectively, because they are the first responders. For example, violence against a child now, they are the first responders.
Who is the first respondent? The police?
No. The first responders are supposed to be the child protective services.
Okay.
They're supposed to be the first responder, then the police.
Okay.
Yes. Or in a case where, it just happened, it can be interchangeable. Yes. But the police, child protective services, the judiciary, the government, everybody has a role to play. But it's not just about what's in the paper. It's also about how you push these policies, how you push this change, what you are, the monies, because everything has to do with money. How are you trying to encourage these workers to work effectively? How do you, in a situation where a child has been abused and the child cannot go back to his home, where can you keep that child? Do you have the right homes to keep that child? Do you have effective rehabilitation centers to keep that child? We see civil societies that are working tirelessly, and they have these safe homes. There was a time that we did a program on still 16 days of activism, and then we held a program where we used women in leadership as a tool to end gender-based violence. And so we partnered with safe houses and shelters across FCT. And I saw that there were so many NGOs, INGOs that had beautiful safe houses. So it's not only about NAPTIP. Do you understand? They're doing a good job, but there were INGOs, NGOs, some civil society groups that had these safe houses and homes, shelters, to keep women and girls that have received some sort of violence. But what is the government doing? Because this goes beyond just the FCT. we also have to consider state levels. What are our governors doing about this? What are our local government chairmen doing about this? This is a conversation starter. This is what we need to discuss daily. Because you understand, because it's not just about what happens in the big cities. We have seen situations, and let me just move back to you. We have seen situations where women are doing very well, economically empowered, but yet you said something. I work with FIDA, Federation of Women Lawyers in Nigeria, and FIDA has been doing amazing work when it comes to women and girls, you know. And then some people, you know, we have women that will come and tell us, oh, you know, my husband did this, my husband did that, and the next thing they're like, oh no, we're fine, everything is fine. So that means that there's a problem, and that root cause is cultural and traditional norms. Probably she went home, you know, the family called her and they said, oh no, you want to disgrace us, so you're taking our son somewhere and you want to do it. Or her family called her and told her, so you want to be a single mother, you know, you want to be a single mother, you want your children to suffer. So there needs to be a whole reorientation, and that is why we are doing what we are doing. That is why this 16 days of activism that happens yearly is always informing, educating, motivating, and pushing away these norms.
Okay, but do you think it's enough? Because I understand that, of course, there are some certain kind of stereotyping, harmful stereotyping.
Yes.
And of course, expectations, societal expectations, which you have even said, like, do you want to be a disgrace to the family?
Yes.
You'll be termed divorced.
Yes.
Do you want to abandon your children?
Yes.
Like, I was having a conversation recently with someone, and she said as a child, she advised her mom to leave her husband, their father, because of what she was going through emotionally and even physically in terms of abuse, but yet the mother stayed until she died. Okay, so these are expectations. Like, she couldn't leave because, of course, of her children, of what the society was stable. So do you think this days, the 16 days, is enough to perhaps address this whole issue?
I wouldn't say it has found a way to solve all the issue, but I would say that it has gone a long way to helping this issue. I can tell you for a fact that there's a cultural shift, and there's also a mental shift going on. I'm just giving an example here. A 20-year-old girl and how she thinks about violence, whether gender-based or, you know, whether physical or sexual violence, is different from somebody that's 50 or in her late 40s will think about it. I feel like these issues have helped to shape the next generation, because there has been more, you know, attention has been given to this generation. In schools, in public settings, people are talking about these things. People do not want to accept violence anymore in the way, you know, before violence was accepted. In fact, it was disgraceful for you to come out and even talk about the violence you're facing at home. But now there's a societal shift. That is why a young girl in marriage now can just speak up and tell you she's not doing again. And she doesn't really care. We're not where we were supposed to be. There's still a long way. There's still a stretch. But I can tell you that there's a societal shift. And that shift came about because these conversations are not conversations that we shy away from anymore. These conversations are conversations that I can stand here and tell you that I am somebody that has faced sexual harassment, which is a form of violence. I'm not hiding it. I'm not shying away from it. So this is what we're talking about. Yes, we're not where we are, but because these issues are always spoken about loudly and clearly, people are starting to become fearless. People are starting to get motivated. And because the right spaces are there, you know, for you to speak up, for you to be listened to, for you to report, for you to get the support that you need. So I can tell you for a fact that we are getting somewhere.
Indeed. Thank you.
Yes.
Indeed, we're
you very
actually
much.
getting somewhere. We have so many questions to ask, but
I
then
actually have one I wanted to ask,
yes,
for
but time,
sake of time.
time is fast spent, and we have to go for
Wow.
this first half.
Thank
I'm
you
sure
so
you're really
much.
enjoying it.
I did.
Then
I
you're
did.
all right,
Good.
then viewers. Like I said earlier, 16 days activism against gender-based violence. We'll be going on a break, and when we return, we'll bring in another guest that will be speaking on the same topic. So do not go anywhere. We'll be right back.
My name is Sheila BCFR, the Black Comedian of the Federal Republic. I tell you, when it comes to the best of entertainment, the best of news, the best of information, something that is educative, you're right here at the best place to see that. It's KAFTAN TV. You know what? Increase the volume. Keep watching. Don't touch the dial, okay?
It's your girl Nkechi Blessing Sunday. I want you all to keep watching KAFTAN TV.
Please keep watching KAFTAN TV. It is the best TV station in the country. They're doing an amazing job. Please do not touch the dial. Keep watching. Thank you.
My name is Sheila BCFR, the Black Comedian of the Federal Republic. I tell you, when it comes to the best of entertainment, the best of news, the best of information, something that is educative, you're right here at the best place to see that. It's KAFTAN TV. You know what? Increase the volume. Keep watching. Don't touch the dial, okay?
It's your girl Nkechi Blessing Sunday. I want you all to keep watching.
Please, girls, let's be fast with our chores. It's almost time for Engendered. Girls, it's time for your favorite program, Engendered. Yeah, mommy, we're coming right away. Sophia, turn off the gas. What are your fears as a woman? And what are your doubts as a lady? You think you're alone with those thoughts? Then welcome to Engendered, where we'll bring you discuss, interviews, previews, experiences, opinions on issues relating to the female gender. This is Engendered. Please, girls, let's be fast with our chores. It's almost time for Engendered. Girls, it's time for your favorite program, Engendered. Yeah, mommy, we're coming right away. Sophia, turn off the gas. What are your fears as a woman? And what are your doubts as a lady? You think you're alone with those thoughts? Then welcome.
Welcome back to the program. It's still Engendered, the show where we discuss everything relating to the female gender. If you just joined us, you've missed the first segment, and I would not lie to you, it was really interesting. And this is the second segment, and we'll be discussing 16 days activism against gender-based violence. And now, I don't know if I should introduce our handsome guest, or I should go ahead and read some reports. We have a report here from, I forgot to tell you, this segment, the first segment, we talked about women, the abuse against women and children. Now this, we'll be talking about the male gender, because most times people don't believe that the male gender also faces all the violent abuse against the male gender. So here's a report from NAPTIP. It says, men now becoming victims of domestic violence, from NAPTIP. The National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons has identified an increasing trend of men becoming victims of sexual and gender-based violence in recent times. The agency Director General Fatima Waziri Azza disclosed this at a workshop organized with support from Ford Foundation on Wednesday in Abuja. She stated that the cases border on physical violence, separating children from their fathers, and chasing men out of shared homes. Waziri reassuring men who are victims that the laws protect them, revealed that 15 complaints have been registered on such cases in 2023. You can imagine. She noted that they have also started seeing new trends. In the past, they never used to get complaints from men, but now they get complaints from the male gender. She added that this was something that never happened before. In the past, men are thought to be strong and internalized issues, but it is gratifying to see that men are speaking up. So this shows that men and boys also go through these issues. The laws are also there to protect them. Now, according to her, the workshop provides an avenue for stakeholders to strengthen collaboration among themselves and understand the different roles and responsibility that each play in tackling SGBV issues, while discussing strategies and stepping up advocacy efforts towards preventing and tackling the issue. Then another point she mentioned is, most times when people talk about issues of gender-based violence, they talk about the culture of silence, and categorically states that the culture of silence is progressively decreasing. Now I will bring our guest, who is no other but Mr. Michael Adeniji. You're welcome to the show.
You're supposed to know that offhand, because you already said he's a fine man.
I beg your pardon.
Thank you.
Welcome to the show. Yeah, it's really nice to have you join us. I like it when we have a man talk the women issues.
Exactly.
So you heard the analysis I gave. Yeah, he for she. You already heard the analysis I gave. Now I want us to start with this last one that says the culture of silence is progressively decreasing. What are your thoughts on that?
I'd agree. And I think this is the age of social media, where everybody can share information to millions in seconds. So because we have access to our devices powered by internet and all of that, it makes it easy for you to share information when you come across violence, when something is happening around. I mean, something could be happening at the corners of Badagry, and we could get to know in the next 1 minute. So that's why we will see that people are not keeping quiet anymore. And let's give it to the Gen Z generation. The Gen Z wants us to know what is going on. And whilst a lot of us have been taught to keep quiet in certain things, in certain instances, now there's so much flood information in the public space. So yeah, that's a beautiful thing. That the culture of silence is dying, and we have people engaging to speak about the real issues, the problems we have in the society.
Okay, but then do you think, because you saw an analysis written by NAPTIP, do you agree with that thought that men are also being raped? And why do you also think that the Gdbv and they does not kind of holistically broaden across both
genders?
Yes, both genders.
Beautiful question. So to start with, I'd say this from the CPNs, the Child Protection Networks, access to information. You know, the CPN is made up of a lot of organizations across the country, about 80 in the FCT. Some of the issues we get that gets to us is young boys being abused, either by the male gender or the female gender. So yes, we have issues that concerns men when it comes to gender-based violence. However, it might not be as much as when ascribes to the women. But you asked me, why is it that there's no balance? We should know that the 16th activism came to be through an effort by a women-led coalition sometimes in 1972, I think. I'm not so sure about that now. And so it was at that time to bring to fora issues concerning women. It was to bring to fora all forms of violence against women. So yeah, it's a very long time. I mean, that's a lot of years ago. So we have seen society metamorphose to understand that, oh, men are suffering too. It's just that men are taught to keep quiet. I mean, man, don't talk. Man up. But well, we should man up. That's men should man up as leaders and as women are leaders as well. But however, we're human beings. And no matter how much you want to man up, as a young man, as a child, we all have issues that disturbs us. So when we face violence, you shouldn't man up in the face of violence. Speak out so that help and assistance can come from the headquarters.
Are there any specific support system for the male? And does this 16 days activism also cover the male gender?
Okay, so by the way, Netflix is doing a very fantastic job. The DG is a very fantastic person, and kudos to them for that report and they have released. You asked if there are support targeted towards men. In the CPN, like I said, organizations work across board. At the CPO, the organization that I chair in Nigeria, our programs are directed towards boys and girls. So we don't have we don't have a focus on a particular gender. So we're able to open our programs up to young boys in schools and young girls in schools. But I'd mention a few programs aside the CPO's one. In the Chichiyara Foundation, that's a foundation, Chichiyara Child Advocacy Center, they currently have a program that is targeted at children, as raising awareness and sensitizing children against all forms of violence, abuse, and all that. They include adults in that program as well, so it's a two-phase program. The Tabitha Kumi Foundation, located in Abuja, has what is called the Flags Initiative. I think this is a program they have in partnership with the UN Women, where they're focusing on girls in the society. And interestingly, when we had a meeting on one of those on the project, one of the questions that came is, there's so much about girls, flags, the girls, what's happening to the boys? So there are a number of persons or a number of organizations working with the boys. There's an organization, I'm not able to remember their name now, whose head is my very good friend, who's the organization centered just on the boys. So they go across schools in the country, very, very powerful organization, trying to train boys on how to behave, on how to be men, on how to handle issues. Issues should not be handled by violence. Issues should, when you come across the other gender, you should respect their individuality as equals, not because as subordinates. Because someone is a female doesn't make them a subordinate or equals. You should understand that every woman you see or every man you see is a reflection of yourself. So we're not. Other people are subordinate to us. We're co-humans. So this planet, we own it together. So what you will have done to yourself are the things you shouldn't do to other people. So Save the Boys, that's the name of the organization. So they're doing a fantastic job.
I'm very glad about this organization that is actually saving the boys. Because in the past, you get to see more concentration is on the girl child. The girl, you have to learn how to do this, you have to know, and nobody is talking to the boy, and you see the society getting bad because the two has to work hand in hand to get a balance. So I'm very, very glad about this initiative.
You know, Pamela, earlier I was having a discussion which I'm very, very happy you're here, because we cannot have gender-based violence without, of course, inculcating the male child also, because sometimes, like you said, they are largely the perpetrators. Okay, so which is the reason why I'm happy about the show. But I also want to bring something to the phobia. That of course, the call by some group of women asking that rapists should be castrated. And when they're saying rapist here, that's on the Guardian front page, that when you're saying rapist there, it could, I'm sure basically, I don't want to say maybe it's just the male or so. So do you think it should, do you agree with this line that rapist should be castrated, or do you think it should cover both gender or something?
Okay, that's a good question, and I think there's so much noise about it in the media space at the moment, so it's something we should discuss. You see, the severity around castration for perpetrators is a very sensitive issue, and we need to look at it holistically in different dimensions. We need to look at the legal aspect of it, the human rights components, and whilst it is a fantastic deterrent against other for perpetrators or would-be perpetrators when they see that this is the kind of punishment. But there are other components. So we have the human right component speaks to it. Everybody have rights. Is this something that we can do? Can it be codified into law? There's a local component. Whilst our expertise is to deal with what the issues are, assist the victims, ensure that they are survivors, and do a lot of things, we cannot say much on what should be done to perpetrators. So what the focus would be for me, and I'm sure for the CPN as a whole and other CSOs, if I can speak for them, would be that can we have a legal framework that is revitalized? Because one of the issues we face with government agencies face with persecuting rape in court is that the evidence usually faces out. So if if there's a rape case and there's no medical person on ground, or is not transferred to the hospital or the clinic to take the evidence, so once it takes time, then the evidence just wins out, and then it makes it difficult to prosecute the perpetrator with enough evidence. So what I would say is that can we step up what currently doing to ensure that we get justice for survivors? So maybe that once we step up that, that will get us to putting more perpetrators in jail.
Okay, so but then how do you think we can step up? Because silence seems to be like the major issue between either the male or the female when they are rape victims. For instance, the woman wouldn't want to talk because she's scared. What would the society say? The man is not talking because he is meant to man up. So that is a major factor between the male and the female. So what do you think should be put in place to address this issue?
So at CPO, our mantra, interestingly, is creating safe spaces for children. So, but in this context, not just safe spaces for children, so this is for children, excuse me, I've cold, so my voice is a bit cold. For children, for girls, for women, for men. So we need to have spaces in our schools, in our communities, where people can go and talk. So currently, what is obtainable around the country is that in some local communities anyway, people cannot go and talk about these things. But when we know that in this community there's a group, we have groups like that in the FCT, where there's a group that once sort of thing happen, you go to them, they know which organization to call, how to go about ensuring that the person is taken care of and gets justice. So we need to have those kind of spaces for people who are victims to be able to speak out, so that we can kill or eliminate totally the stigmatism with speaking out against rape. So those spaces, that's important. Then on government's own part, I think the CPN is going to have a meeting with the new leadership of the social development in the FCT sometime before the end of this campaign. Government needs to ensure that the roles you play or your actions speak louder than your words. Now, the words shouldn't be the ones speaking louder than the action, but your actions should speak louder than the words. So the government should empower institutions such as NAPTIP to be able to prosecute these cases very well. In the FCT, we have the Sexual Assault Response Center in Buhari. But Buhari, that's the only one we have in the FCT, I think, and Buhari is far. We're currently in the city. So those are the concerns we have. Such centers should be across the city.
Apart from the proximity, how effective are these places?
How effective?
Yes.
That's a good question. That's a good question. Nigeria has about 200 million people. From what over 200 million people from what NBS tells us over. But when we come to Abuja, if we should narrow it down, now I think Abuja has about between 6 and 8 million people. There are a lot of organizations doing so many amazing things to get things better, but it's always like a drop in the ocean. So we cannot, while we should applaud ourselves for the progress made over the course of 5-10 years, there's more to do. So NGOs or CSOs like the ones I chair need to also support government efforts across the city, across the country, to replicate what is being done in Buhari, in other areas. So we need to get funding for it. Government needs to have a budget line for issues like this. So when budget is being read at the floor of the National Assembly or the state level, we need to hear political leaders or leaders speak to issues concerning children, speak to gender issues, say that this part of the budget is to prosecute issues like is to handle matters like this. That's when our actions is speaking. But when we just come on air and then we say this and say that,
Very frustrating.
we're not, so our actions need to speak louder than the voice. And then, organizations need to be able to track the progress. So when there's a budget line for issues like this, organizations step in and ensure that government is doing what it should do to bring to make society better.
Okay, so I was going to ask what can be done to perhaps promote healthy masculinity, because most times the reason why we often see this kind of violence being perpetrated is the fact that one wants to exhibit some form of like, I'm a man, especially in terms of homes, like sexual assault or sexual violence and the likes. This kind of well, I'm the man, I hit you, that's physical abuse. Now I'm the man, you are just a woman, you're just a mere woman, and the rest is, yes, I can do what I want to do, I'm the head of the house. So what can be done? Because I know I want to ascribe it to the government, to civil society organizations, which forms from perhaps the society, of course. What can be done to promote, especially from families, from the society, to promote healthy masculinity?
Okay, so in this part, everybody has a role to play. The families, everybody has a role to play. But let's narrow it down. For me, for organizations that I chair, including the CP and the CPN, the most important members of society are the children. They're the ones who are legacy for the future is invested in. So whilst we have, and by the way, Nigeria is a very young population. We have over 80 million people who are between 18 and 34. So we need to ensure that the next generation that is coming, and give it to the Gen Zs, they're speaking out. The next generation that is coming knows the right things. So that's why organizations like ours, and including NAPTIP, like
I actually know the right thing.
That's so good.
Gen Zs, are you sure?
Let's not start. Okay, well, yeah. But we need to go to schools. And when I say schools, not just secondary institutions, primary institutions, and have rights, human rights discussions, gender rights issues institutionalized, so that these things are discussed in school curriculums. We need to have children who grow up to understand these things. Whilst it might have been a pattern for over generations, so a lot of older people feel, I'm a man, I can do and undo. When we have children who grow up over the next 10 years, the 15 years, understanding what right is and how to treat other people, how to ensure that human dignity comes first, how to ensure that there's respect for persons, I'm telling you, we would have a better society. So our focus at the moment is to ensure that we take this message to the children in schools, in their communities. Before the end of this of the campaign, and as the campaign is going on, a number of organizations are going to school. I will be in a school myself in Dutse and in Kuje sometime next week. So these are the conversations we're having.
Okay,
Yes.
Sorry, Pamela. Let me ask, because it's still in line. How about the parents? Because I understand that it is what the parents teach. Okay, for instance, your outreach focuses on the children in schools, but they go back home and the parents teach them something else. So, and 1 day outreach or 2 days outreach cannot really change what they get from the house over time for a long period of time. So, what do you think can be done alongside to involve the parents as to this, to still promote healthy masculinity? Because I can tell you for true that in this African settings where we are, there seems to, although we are not where we used to be, but there's this like line between she's a female child and this is the male child, he's the head and you are nothing, you're the neck or your tail or whatever. So there's this kind of that thing is still there, that bias is still there. So what can be done to teach the parents
To create a balance.
Yeah, beautiful question. And before I respond to that, if you remember, I mentioned that advocacy and awareness program needs to be institutionalized. So it shouldn't be a one-day affair in schools. It should be in their curriculum, something they learn over time. So for the parents, that's why some of our efforts are community-led. So when we go into the communities, aside the institutions, the target now are now the adults. We want to engage community leaders, we want to engage families and make parents understand that this is wrong. So I'll give you an instance. I was watching a video that was shared with me a couple of days ago where the mom was saying to the son, oh, don't do that, that's wrong, and all that. And then the son said, well, but you did it the other day and I told you it was wrong, you didn't listen. So it was interesting to see that. I think the child was about 4-year-old. So it was interesting to see the child was able to see or know what is right. So children are not the same. So children are able to tell their parents, why does Daddy, why do you shout every time? Why are you shouting at mommy? You know those things. So when we go to communities, we engage the parents. So we want them to have, when they have peer group discussions, either in the market groups, either in the leadership forums around, they're able to discuss these things among themselves. I mean, what are the best ways to handle family matters? It's not always fights. It shouldn't even be fights.
It's not always fights.
I can't remember the last time. I have ever had a physical confrontation with anybody that. No, it shouldn't be. Whatever issues are, we should all come to the rallying table and lay our discussions and gonna solve issues. So we need adults to have these discussions in their peer groups, so that fellow adults understand that these things are wrong and what should we do better. And one important thing we should do is that, you see, knowledge and information does not reach a peak. It's a progress, it's a journey. So what you know today might not be enough for tomorrow. So you should always learn, ask questions. Oh yeah, they said we shouldn't do this to children. Then how do you discipline a stubborn child? Well, you should go and learn. You can approach NGOs like ours and organizations in your to understand how to deal with children, how to discipline children. Sometimes when you beat children too much, you just make them become so ardent that, well, they turn to what they want to be. So these are the things that adults should be doing to make society a better place.
Okay, we get to understand that the theme of this 16 days activism is invest in women and children. Now, talking about investing in women. Before you invest in a woman, what you should be doing? They said when opportunity meets preparedness, then it clicks. Now, before a woman waits for investment, what should she be doing?
Okay, so Nigerian women are very enterprising, very entrepreneurial. I have a number of female friends and female family members who are doing quite well in their businesses and the things they do. But however, what a woman should do is empower herself. Let me give you instances, and someone who goes after opportunities, who learns. And when we say learning, I know that is in different phases. While trying to get an Ivy League MSc or trying to get this is expensive, learning can be as reduced as learning how to do graphics and making money from it. It can be as simple as learning how to be a cobbler. Learning how to do decorative items and all that. So what a woman should do is learn. You need to first of all put yourself in the right place for opportunities when they come for you to pick them up. So, but anybody who is not doing anything, it makes it difficult for you to get anything. So whilst women are doing amazingly well, we need to do more, because let's not give perpetrators of violence opportunities to say this is what we want to do this. Currently there's a bill before the National Assembly that talks about the 35% affirmation for women. Interesting, that's beautiful, but for me in 10 years I want to take 50%. I mean, in Nigeria we have almost equal number of men and women. The world's population is about 7-point-something billion, and we know that population says 50% are women and 50% are men. So can we discuss around having a balance, and women can go out for opportunities as much as men can go for it. Whoever is the best picks it. So those are the conversations we should have. We shouldn't talk about, women should be put in this, women should be put in that. No, it should be a balance. Women should be allowed to express themselves too. I want to see a woman president of Nigeria someday.
I'm sure.
In our lifetime.
okay, talking about a balance. Okay, there's a situation where a woman gets invested on and she's well-to-do, and the next thing is, I don't need a man. I don't need... someone was telling us being successful is being independent without a man and without a child or children. So how can we create, in investing in a woman now, how can we make sure we create this balance? I'll
say this. I think the bad news spreads better than the good news. So whilst we have a number of women who can be like that, we have countless women who are amazing in their field and their family is superb. I mean, if you want me to make examples, we would go non-stop. Maybe I should make a very...
because we're out of time, so
Okay, so maybe I should make a very significant one. Okonjo-Iweala is the chair of the World Trade Center. She has a very functional family. She's married, her children. One of her child just got married recently. I mean, you can't reach the pinnacle of success and have a functional family. Regardless, it doesn't. It shouldn't mean that, oh, now I'm rich. Oh, now I'm comfortable. I don't need... No. That's not how life works. We need each other. We need to be able to move around with other people. So for women, maybe there are some I've not really seen, because maybe I've not been focusing on news like that, but I want to see the ones who old family values whilst they're pushing themselves for success. I know that these things are difficult on women when you have to balance all this, but these things are possible. We see other people do it, we should learn from them and get to do it ourselves.
Okay, while we wrap up, you take this as fast as you can. One of the major parts of the team is to unite.
Yeah.
So how do you call for unity between now the girls and boys to perhaps eliminate or eradicate this violence in totality? Because you see sometimes many people say, oh, it's when a lady is raped, they say she wasn't wearing a good clothes, she was dressed indecent. Okay, and when the boy undergoes such kind of becomes a victim, it's like it's not possible or something. So how do we create how do we unite towards the call for elimination against of gender-based violence?
A wonderful form of the unity is what we have right now. Your TV network and our organizations and agencies coming together to produce this. That's one form of unity. But other forms of unity is understand that we all have a role to play. When we hear cases of violence in our communities and you know what to do, I think you should step in and speak out. If you know the right agencies to connect with, the right parties to speak with, you should do that. If you in societies, if you have people who we have these groups called advocacy groups for against violence in small society. If you know such groups, you just speak to them. Everybody has a role to play. The role is not left to just government and non-governmental organizations. It's everybody in every family, in every school, for every child. We have a role to play to ensure that we have a violence-free society.
Indeed. Thank you.
Thank
get
you
to
so
my
much.
time. It's been a wonderful session.
Thank you
Thank
for
you
the
so much.
insight.
Thank you for having us, and we look forward to having further conversations.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, viewers. I'm sure you had an insightful time with our guest today. We started with the female aspect of our guest, and we went down to the male aspect to show you some sort of inclusivity, right? Indeed.
As well.
Yes, and it's still the 16 days of activism against the gender-based violence. I will continue to bring in more insight on the said topic. And thank you again, Michael. Thank you. All right, that's where we wrap it up for today. Thank you for joining us. Do ensure you join us next week, same time, same station. I am Victoria Agbi.
I am Pamela Ajero. Gender-based violence is a negativities, and everyone, like our guest said, has a role to play in eradicating it. So please, let's stick to it for a sane society. Bye for now.
Bye. Thank you.